I guess every story like this starts with a moment you ignore, a glance you excuse, a feeling you bury because you don't want it to be real. For me, it began the day I introduced my boyfriend Leo to my little sister, Ava. It was an ordinary Saturday afternoon. I was making lunch at my apartment, and I'd invited Ava over to finally meet Leo. They'd heard about each other so many times, but their paths had never crossed until that day. Ava was in college back then, a few years younger than me, and she'd always had this sweet, energetic personality. People liked her. She was the kind of girl who lit up a room when she walked in, and I used to love that about her. Until I didn't. Leo and I had been together for over a year by that point. We met at a friend's birthday dinner, hit it off instantly, and quickly became that couple everyone thought was perfect together. And, honestly, for a long time, we were. He was thoughtful, ambitious, funny in this low-key way that made me laugh when I least expected it. He made me feel safe, seen. I trusted him. I loved him. So, of course, I wanted him to meet the most important person in my life, my little sister. Ava showed up a little late that day, all bubbly and flustered, carrying a bottle of wine and a tray of brownies she'd made from scratch. Leo greeted her with his usual charm, polite but not overly friendly. At first, we ate lunch, chatted, laughed a lot. It felt good. I remember thinking how nice it would be for the two of them to get along, to become close in that sibling-adjacent kind of way. Looking back, I want to shake myself for being so naive. After that first meeting, Ava started coming around more. Sometimes she'd text me out of nowhere asking if she could swing by to study at my place or hang out before going to see friends. I didn't think much of it. She was my sister. She liked my company. I figured she enjoyed our dynamic, maybe even liked having an example of a healthy relationship to look up to. But little things started to stack up, almost too subtle to mention, too easy to dismiss. Like how she'd compliment Leo a little too often, say things like, "Wow, Emma, he's so thoughtful, you're so lucky." Or how she'd find reasons to touch his arm when laughing or sit closer than necessary on the couch. I chalked it up to her being friendly. She'd always been affectionate and open. I trusted her. And I trusted him. One night stands out. We were all watching a movie together. Ava had curled up between us on the couch, claiming it was cold, even though I'd offered her a blanket. She leaned against Leo's side like it was the most natural thing in the world, and I felt this twinge in my chest that I didn't know how to explain. I laughed it off, teased her about being clingy, and she just smirked and said, "You're not the only one who thinks he's warm." Leo chuckled, like it was no big deal. I tried to forget it. But from that night on, I started to notice the way she looked at him. Not with admiration. With longing. At first, I told myself I was crazy. That no one in their right mind would do something like that to their own sister. Especially not Ava. We grew up thick as thieves. She used to follow me around, borrow my clothes, tell me I was her role model. We shared secrets, tears, dreams. She was my best friend before anyone else. That's what made everything worse. It wasn't just her. Leo changed too. Slowly. He started mentioning Ava in passing more often, like, "Your sister's really smart," or "Ava said this hilarious thing the other day." I'd catch him smiling at his phone, and when I'd ask who it was, he'd say, "Just Ava, sending memes." I didn't know when they started texting regularly. I never thought to ask. I didn't think I had to. Then came the weekend that changed everything. Leo had a minor surgery scheduled, nothing too serious, but he needed someone to stay with him overnight. I had a huge work presentation that day, and I was torn. I asked Ava if she could go over and check on him in the morning while I handled the meeting. She said, of course, without hesitation. I even felt grateful. She brought him soup, stayed a while. She texted me updates like, "He's resting, don't worry, and I'll make sure he eats something." I thought I could trust her to take care of him while I took care of everything else. But when I showed up at Leo's place later that evening, something felt different. He was quiet. Not cold, but distant. Ava had already left, but I noticed her scarf on the armrest. Her perfume lingered. Leo brushed off my questions, said she just came by and helped clean up. I kissed him goodnight, and he barely kissed me back. That's when the sinking feeling began. I didn't confront either of them right away. I wasn't sure what I was accusing them of. I didn't want to create drama or seem jealous. But that night, I lay awake wondering if my own sister, was falling for my boyfriend. And worse, I wondered if he might be falling for her too. I wish I could tell you I was wrong. That I overreacted. That this story ends with a heartfelt misunderstanding and a big laugh over how paranoid I was. But I wasn't paranoid. I was right. I just didn't know how right I was until it was far too late. The thing about betrayal is that it rarely explodes in your face. It trickles in slowly, like a leak in the ceiling you don't notice until your whole floor is soaked. That's how it felt in the days after I came home. Leo was quieter. Not distant exactly, just reserved. Like something was weighing on him, but he didn't want to talk about it. Ava, on the other hand, acted almost too normal. Overly cheerful, overly helpful. She'd make breakfast for all three of us, sit with us at dinner like nothing had changed, laugh at Leo's stupid jokes even louder than before. I thought maybe I was going crazy. Maybe I was reading into things too much. But I couldn't shake this tight, cold knot in my stomach. I started testing them in subtle ways. Leaving the room suddenly and listening from the hallway. Watching Ava's eyes when Leo entered. Watching his body language when she touched his arm or leaned too close. And the thing that terrified me most wasn't just what I saw. It was how used to it they both seemed. Like they'd been navigating this weird, electric tension for a while now. Long enough that it didn't feel strange to them anymore. One night, I confronted Leo gently. I asked if anything happened while I was gone. What do you mean? He asked, not meeting my eyes. I told him I'd noticed some changes between him and Ava. That she'd been acting different. He laughed it off at first, called it jealousy. Said Ava was just being Ava. But then he added something that stuck with me. You worry too much. Maybe Ava just admires us. Or me. Is that so bad? That word, admires. It felt intentional. Like a warning without being a confession. Later that week, Mia came over and we talked in the kitchen while Ava and Leo watched a movie in the living room. I told her everything. The weird energy. The little signs. The gut feeling I couldn't ignore. Mia's eyes widened. Emma, she said slowly, do you think they're having an emotional affair? I hadn't said that out loud yet. But when she said it, something clicked. Emotional affair. Yeah, that's what it felt like. And maybe worse. I started digging, not obsessively, but carefully. Checked Leo's phone when he was in the shower. Nothing obvious. No texts. No saved messages. But something told me he was hiding things. I remembered he used to write notes in his phone app, little thoughts or to-dos. I checked that next. And that's when I found it. A draft, untitled, buried between grocery lists and half-finished poetry he never let anyone read. It said, if I had met her first, would it have been different? Nothing else. No name. No context. But I knew. My heart sank. I knew exactly who her was. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't confront him. I didn't storm into Ava's room. I sat there in silence with this invisible knife lodged between my ribs. I watched them laugh over some dumb comedy, their shoulders nearly touching, and I realized I wasn't imagining it. I was watching it. Watching my sister and my boyfriend fall into something behind my back. And they didn't even try to hide it anymore. I started wondering when it began. Was it back when Ava had that breakup and Leo comforted her? Was it the night they stayed up talking while I was sick in bed? Was it all those times I trusted them alone together because they were family? My mind spiraled. I didn't sleep that night. And by morning, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. Something had to give. Someone had to say something. Because whatever was happening, it wasn't just in my head anymore. It was real. And it was about to ruin everything. I didn't go nuclear right away. I wanted to be sure. Not just, I feel it in my gut, sure, I wanted something I couldn't deny, couldn't talk myself out of. Because the truth is, a part of me still didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to believe my sister could betray me like that. That Leo would look at her, my Ava, and feel something he wasn't supposed to. So I played along. I smiled when they smiled. I asked casual questions. I watched closely. And then I started noticing all the little things I'd trained myself to ignore. Ava's perfume lingered in Leo's car. She didn't even drive it. Her favorite necklace was missing from her dresser one day, and I spotted it in the cup holder days later. When I asked her about it, she got weirdly flustered, then laughed it off. "Oh, maybe I dropped it when I borrowed your charger," she said. Which made no sense. Leo and I each had our own. Then came the day I found the bracelet. A little silver chain with a small heart charm, nothing fancy, but unmistakably feminine. It wasn't mine. I found it wedged between the couch cushions when I was cleaning. And it definitely wasn't Leo's mom's, as he later claimed. I remembered Ava wearing something similar once at dinner. When I mentioned it to Leo, he paused. Too long. And then, instead of answering, he asked, "Why are you always looking for something wrong, Em?" I almost laughed. Because by then, I wasn't looking anymore. I was finding. The final straw wasn't even the bracelet. It was something smaller. A single photo. I was on Ava's iPad one afternoon. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, and I'd opened it to check the weather, thinking it was mine. But the screen opened to her camera roll. And there it was. A mirror selfie. Her in a little black tank top, messy hair, pouty lips. In Leo's hoodie. Stared at it, paralyzed. It wasn't scandalous, not in a traditional sense. But that hoodie? It was his favorite. The one he wore on our first date. The one he claimed he could never find anymore. The one he once said smelled like me. And now here it was, stretched across my sister's body, like it had always belonged to her. And the worst part? The timestamp. It was taken the weekend I had gone to visit our cousin 2 towns over, the one weekend I wasn't home in almost 3 months. My mouth went dry. My hands started shaking. I put the iPad down. Quietly. Carefully. I didn't confront her. Not right then. Instead, I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. For hours. I don't even remember thinking. I just felt hollow. Like something had been scooped out of me. I didn't cry. Not yet. I think my brain was still catching up with my heart. But that night, when Leo came over and kissed my forehead like he always did, I felt it. The lie. Sitting between us like a shadow. His lips didn't feel warm. They felt cold. Like they didn't mean it anymore. Like maybe they hadn't meant it in a while. I went to Ava's room after he left. She was in bed, scrolled up in her blanket, pretending to watch something on her laptop. I stood in the doorway for a long time before I spoke. "Do you love him?" She looked up, eyes wide. "What?" "Leo. Do you love him?" She froze. Closed her laptop. Sat up slowly. "Emma, why are you asking me that?" I smiled. A bitter, tight-lipped smile. "Because I think you do. And I think he might love you back." Her face crumpled. For a second, I saw it, the guilt. The shame. The realization that the jig was up. But instead of denying it, she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen." That's what Ava said. And I just stood there, hearing her words echo in my head like they were coming from underwater. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just asked, "How long?" She didn't answer right away. Just looked down at her hands like maybe the lines on her palms would tell her what to say. Eventually, she murmured, "A few months." A few months. I let out a quiet laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was unreal. I felt like I was watching a scene from someone else's life. Ava, my sister, had been sneaking around behind my back for months. While hugging me goodnight. While borrowing my clothes. While pretending to cheer me up when Leo didn't text back. "How could you?" I finally asked, voice low. "You're my sister." She looked like she was about to cry. "I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did." I shook my head. And not by accident. This wasn't one mistake. You chose this over and over again. Silence. And then I asked the question I already dreaded the answer to. "Did you sleep with him?" She closed her eyes. And that was enough. I left her room without another word. That night, I blocked Leo. Not just on my phone, but everywhere. I didn't give him a chance to explain, or lie, or apologize. I didn't want closure. I just wanted distance. Ava cried behind her locked door. I heard her through the walls. But I didn't knock. I didn't comfort her. Not this time. The next morning, she tried to talk to me in the kitchen. Said she didn't expect to fall for him. That she was sorry. That she hated herself for what she did. I listened, but my eyes were empty. You didn't just break my heart, I said. You broke us. And that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes, it's the people you love the most. The ones who know exactly where your soft spots are. I wish I could say I forgave them. That I healed quickly. But it didn't happen overnight. There were nights I cried until I couldn't breathe. Days where I second-guessed everything, my judgment, my worth, my memories. But little by little, I got stronger. I started spending time with friends again. I poured myself into school, art, running, anything that reminded me I still had a life outside of them. I learned to breathe through the ache. And somewhere along the way, the pain started to dull. Ava moved out a few months later. We talked here and there. Cordial. Careful. But it was never the same. As for Leo, I never saw him again. And honestly, I didn't want to. Because I realized something. If someone can throw away your trust so easily, they were never meant to hold your heart in the first place. It's been over a year now. Sometimes it still stings, but not in the sharp, breath-stealing way it used to. More like the soft ache of a healed bruise, a reminder of where I've been, but not something that defines me anymore. Ava and I still talk occasionally, mostly on holidays or when family things come up. We're polite, civil, but the closeness we once had, the late-night talks, the laughter that made our stomachs hurt, the unspoken bond of growing up side by side, it's gone. And I've made peace with that. Not because I stopped loving her, I don't think I ever will, but because I've learned that love isn't always enough. There has to be respect, honesty, loyalty. And once those are broken, some things just can't go back to how they were. I don't think Ava ever really found happiness with Leo. Last I heard, they didn't last long. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe he just wasn't who she thought he was once the secret stopped being exciting. As for me, I'm okay. Actually, I'm more than okay. I've built a quieter, stronger life for myself, one rooted in self-respect and boundaries. I've learned to trust again, slowly, with people who've earned it. I've met new friends, explored new places, and done things I never would have dared to before. And when I look in the mirror now, I see someone I'm proud of. Not because I came out of this unscarred, but because I didn't let it break me. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you love, I just want you to know. It's not your fault. You deserved better. And no matter how much it hurts now, the pain will pass. You will heal. You will grow. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that you're not just surviving, you're living again. I did. And so will you.